Genesis chapter 6, one of the most controversial chapters in all of the Bible. And it's mainly over these first 4 verses. And it's because there's not a lot of information to go off of, leading to multiple different interpretations. And because there's multiple interpretations, we're going to go over multiple different clips from different people covering different interpretations. But before we jump into that first clip from Shamoun, let's read the actual text. Genesis chapter 6, verse 1 to 4. Now it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were beautiful, and took wives for themselves of all whom they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit shall not strive with man forever, for he is indeed flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. Those were the mighty men who were of old, men of renown. When I first read that, I'm like, is this Conan the Barbarian or some sort of fantasy novel? Because it does, reading this, it sounds like some ancient history, some lost the men of renown, the mighty men who are of old, the men of renown. That sounds like some old, like epic tale of these long lost heroes and warriors of the past that we don't know much information about. There were giants in those days, you know? So what's really going on here? Just reading this, you can already imagine the multiple different theories that people have. I'm not sure if you guys have looked into people like the late Rob Skiba or Gary Wayne who have dived into this and then tied it to so many different cultures, but we'll get into that in a bit. For now, let's jump into that clip from Shamoun.
View number 1, the sons of God are angels. View number 2, the sons of God are the righteous seed of Adam through Seth. The Sethites, they were the seed of God, the chosen seed of the Lord, the righteous seed, in contrast to Cain and his corrupt seed, who had defiled themselves due to their sin and rebellion against God. So this view would say that the seed of Seth, right, the male descendants of Seth, married into the daughters of Cain. So believers, unbelievers mixed, and God was upset through that union. That's the second view. The third view is, it refers to human rulers, human kings, so to speak, because it would be anachronistic to speak of kings at that time, because this is before the flood. But be that as it may, it would refer to the rulers of clans who in their arrogance thought they were divine, marrying common folk. Now, why in the world would Genesis acknowledge these human rulers as sons of God marrying common folk? And where in the world do we find in Genesis or the writings of Moses that rulers were styled sons of God? I don't know. For the life of me, why would someone think this is what Genesis 6 is referring to?
Moses wouldn't have used sons of God in that way, I don't think. So I think the first 2 are the real competitors in terms of interpretations. Either the sons of God are referring to angels, or the sons of God are referring to the godly line of Seth. But let's go back to the text here, because I always thought that they were talking about the godly line of Seth. That's what I thought. They were talking about humans, okay? But if the sons of God are referring to angels, then are we saying that angels came down and took wives of women, mated with women, and then had this hybrid offspring? You can see how that opens up so many different rabbit holes, and you can go down into so many different avenues. Because when you read this, it feels like so much is being said. At the same time, there's not enough information to go off of. But let's check this out again here. The sons of God. So imagine, fallen angels saw daughters of men, that they were beautiful, and took wives for themselves of all whom they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit shall not strive with man forever, for he is indeed flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants on the earth in those days, and also afterwards, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. So the idea is that you have giants that are offspring of this. These giants are human angel hybrids, okay? Those were the mighty men of old, men of renown. So you have people who take that and then tie it in to other cultures, like the Greek demigods, okay? So imagine the pantheon are actually fallen angels. And they're coming down to earth and mating with women, okay? And creating these hybrids, okay? And so now these giants could be the Titans, okay? So it's insane. I believe Gary Wayne and Rob Skiba both hold that view. I'm sure there's so many other people, but it's incredibly interesting. It's incredibly interesting. It's fantastical almost. I mean, not even almost. You could write a fantasy novel with that premise. And I get why people find that hard to believe, because it does sound like a fantasy novel. But if it's true, it's true, you know? But then that's where the godly line of Seth comes in. And that seems more believable. You have the godly line of Seth intermingling with a worldly, earthly, sinful line. Okay, the line of Cain. And that interpretation seems to bring things back down to earth, and it seems more believable. But just because I can wrap my head around it more doesn't mean it's more true. Just because I can't understand something doesn't mean it's not true. Anyways, let's continue on this journey here. This is Dr. Peter Gentry.
So how do we find the right interpretation? The exact expression, sons of God, only occurs 4 or 5 times in the Hebrew Bible. We have one occurrence here in Genesis 6. We have 2 occurrences in the introduction to the book of Job. In the introduction to the book of Job, we see God gathering in his heavenly court, his heavenly assembly with the angels. The angels are called sons of God there. There's another occurrence in the book of Job, Job chapter 38, where God is challenging Job, and he says, where were you when I created the world? When he created the world, the sons of God sang for joy. So it seems to, it also seems to be a very clear reference to angelic beings. The last occurrence is in Aramaic, in the book of Daniel. When the king looked into the furnace, he saw four people there, and it says that one looked like a son of God, which would mean a divine being, an angelic being. There are only 5 occurrences in the entire Bible where we have the exact expression, son of God or sons of God, and it always refers to angelic beings.
All right, so you might be thinking immediately, wait a second, what about, we're referred to as, followers of God referred to as the children of God, like sons of God and daughters of God, right? You might be saying something like this.
Remember what Jesus says in the Sermon on the Mount? Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Or when Paul says in Romans 8 that all who are led by the Spirit of God are sons of God. Or when
Right? So what about that sons of God? Because according to Dr. Peter Gentry here, he's saying it's only in these 5 locations. What about those other locations, right? So I pulled them up here. So here we have Matthew chapter 5, verse 9. Sons, a son, descendant of God, a deity, especially the supreme deity. Same goes for Romans chapter 8, verse 14. Exact same in the Greek. Now, let's look at a couple of the verses that Dr. Peter Gentry showcased. The sons of God. Now, this is in Hebrew versus these being in the New Testament are in Greek. The meaning is pretty much the same, but it is different. Son, grandson, child, member of a group, right? So it's a much more broad interpretation of God, but it's in the plural. Rulers, judges, divine ones, angels, gods, right? So It is a very similar meaning, but it is a different phrase. And that was the argument that Dr. Peter Gentry had. Because remember, he said every single time this exact phrase is used, it is being referred to angels or divine beings. I'm sure some of you at this point are like, wait a second, slow down. Do you really expect me to believe that angels, fallen angels, came down and mated with humans and bore children? And you have these half angel, half human people walking around, and that's where giants came from? That sounds like a fantasy novel. You really expect me to believe that? Well, let's go with that line of thinking. This clip is from Shalom Adventure TV, a sermon from Messianic Rabbi Jeff Zaremsky. Let's check this out.
First, question 1, where in the Bible does it call evil angels sons of God? Can someone help me with that?
Yeah, I mean...
Okay, it mentions sons of God in the book of Job, yes?
Yeah.
But where in the Bible does it call evil angels sons of God?
Okay, good point.
I'll make it simple for you. It's not there. There's nowhere in the Bible that it calls evil angels sons of God. Okay? So it's just not there at all anywhere in the Bible. Again, in the book of Job, it talks about the sons of God. Nowhere does it indicate that they are evil angels. Question 2. Are angels, whether evil or good, ever given in the Bible in marriage? No. Actually, the Bible tells us they are not given in marriage, right?
Let me pull up that verse right now here. This is Matthew chapter 22, verse 30. For in the resurrection they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels of God in heaven. So, like angels of God in heaven, they will neither marry nor be given in marriage. So, angels don't get married. But it says, like angels of God in heaven. So can angels get married if they're not in heaven? Because we're talking about fallen angels on earth here. But anyways, let's get back to this.
But what was happening in verses 1 through 7? The sons of God were doing what with the daughters of men? Marrying them. Well, that's kind of interesting. Verse 3. Does the Bible say that angels can procreate? No, it doesn't say that. It doesn't say they can't, but it doesn't say they do. And if they're not given in marriage, the kind of indication there is that because they're not procreating, right? And not able to procreate. And, you know, you think about it, if they were able to procreate, we'd have even more evil angels than we already have, right? So that'd be a real problem on this earth. And so there is no indication that they are able to procreate. And in those 7 verses, is the word angels even mentioned? No, wasn't mentioned at all.
That's true. Okay, angels wasn't mentioned, but if, as Dr. Peter Gentry said, if sons of God, that phrase is specifically used to reference angels or divine beings, then it was referenced. You see what I'm saying?
If a dog and a cat have sex, will it produce anything? No. So what would make us think that angels and humans having sex can produce anything? I think there's a lot more similarities between a dog and a cat than there is between an angel and a human being.
I get that.
And so, you know, different species don't mix. It just doesn't happen.
Again, if sons of God is referring to angels, then they produce something, you know? They did produce something. So, I mean, if it is referring to angels, if sons of God means angels, then this doesn't matter because it happened, you know?
and produce anything, especially anything that can then continue to reproduce. I mean, the closest we get is what, a donkey and a horse mating and creating a mule, right? But they can't
or the liger,
continue to procreate.
The lion and the tiger.
And but certainly, again, different species don't match up. And I even have a friend who has a farm, lots of cattle, and he bought some kind of miniature cattle. I mean, they weren't real small, but they were smaller than the rest of his cattle. And one of his bulls, full-size bull, mated with one of those kind of miniature cows. And when she was attempting to give birth, the calf was too big and she died. Yeah. So if you can imagine, like a German Shepherd and a Chihuahua, right? The thing's not going to survive. Right? And so how are these evil angels producing these giants out of these women?
I mean, that's a good point right there.
If evil angels were having such a good time marrying and having sex with humans, why aren't they doing that today?
Good question.
Now you might be thinking, well, maybe they are, and that's where we've gotten these politicians and, that then would make sense. That would explain a lot of things, right? So maybe that's, George Soros and Klaus Schwab and Bill Gates. Maybe that's where they came from, right? That explains it.
Okay, so he made some good points. This is a funny guy. Now, my next question would be the Book of Enoch. I know it's an apocryphal text. It's not biblical canon, but it aligns with the sons of God are fallen angels interpretation. And it goes into detail about what happened, about what caused the Noah's flood, what was the catalyst for Noah's flood. It talks about so many different things. If that's something you're interested in, we could dive in. We could check out the Book of Enoch on this channel. But then we got to remember, it is an apocryphal text. It is not biblical canon. But for now, let's jump right back to this clip from Sam Shamoun.
The problem with the other view, the second view, the Sethite view. Are you ready? If you're telling me that the Sethites, the descendants of Seth, son of Adam, are called sons of God because they are the chosen seed, set apart by God, that God would work through to bring about the salvation of the world, my first question would be, why are they called the sons of God in contrast to Cain and his descendants? The answer would typically be because they were righteous and Cain and his seed were corrupt and unbelieving and of the evil one. Well, you got a problem, buddy. If they're called the sons of God because they're righteous, then you're admitting they ceased to be righteous and corrupted themselves, because how can they be righteous if, according to you, then they intermingle with the daughters of men, whom you say are the daughters of the line of Cain, thereby doing something evil and corrupting themselves, thereby forfeiting their status as sons of God.
Good
so
point.
I want to know how and why are they called the sons of God according to you? Are you with me there? Now, Mike Heiser's view is that they're angels. Heiser goes with the view they're angels.
Yeah, he does.
So again, let me repeat. Why are the Sethites called sons of God according to you? Did God establish a covenant through the line of Seth? You won't find it.
I don't think so.
So they can't be called sons of God for that reason, because they were righteous and set apart, in contrast to Cain's seed, who had corrupted themselves by their rebellion. Well, then you got a problem, because they end up not becoming righteous, because according to you, the male line of Seth corrupted and tainted themselves by marrying the daughters of Cain.
This is a good point right here.
Thereby intermingling with unbelievers, producing a seed of unbelievers, causing God to then destroy the earth by a flood. Really? So why are they called the sons of God? Because they're righteous? Well, obviously they're not righteous. And why would you assume the daughters...
Maybe you could say they were called sons of God in that time, but then after they committed the sin, they're not sons of God? I don't know. Men here mean the line of Cain. Couldn't Moses have said the daughters of Cain? Yeah, he could
Why
have.
speak of men in general, siring daughters in general? Why didn't he make it specific? The sons of God married the daughters of Cain, and there'd be no argument. Or even more specific, the seed of Seth commingled with the daughters of Cain. See the problem?
Yeah, I see the problem. And I mean, you see, you can make the argument for both ways, right? Where does it say angels here? It doesn't say angels here anywhere. But then you could say, where does it say the line of Seth? Where does it say the line of Cain? It doesn't say that there either. So Sam made a fantastic point there. Now let's take a look at this here. This is the descendants of Seth. You have Seth going all the way to Noah, right? So the godly line of Seth. That's apparently not godly anymore because they did unrighteous acts. Okay. Many people believe the significance in showing Noah's genealogy, right, was to show that it was pure. The genealogy was pure. But if it's not anymore, if the line of Seth wasn't righteous after that point, after the point of intermingling with the daughters of men, then there's no, that additional significance in the genealogy of Noah is taken away. And if you take this in the other way, where the sons of God are fallen angels, that genealogy has significance because it would mean, it's the reason why it's there is because it's showcasing the purity of Noah's bloodline. If the sons of God are angels, then the fallen angels are intermingling with the daughters of men, okay? May not necessarily be the daughters of men from the line of Seth. So this line of Seth could remain pure, meaning Noah's bloodline remains pure, which is why Noah's family was put on the ark and everybody else was destroyed. That's getting into the Book of Enoch and stuff like that. So if you guys are really interested into looking into the Book of Enoch, let me know because we could read it on the channel. All right, I know we covered quite a bit in this video. We went through a lot of information, and so we didn't get to spend so much time in this topic, but that's what I'm saying. If you guys want to look into the Book of Enoch, we could definitely look into the Book of Enoch because that's something I want to look into more also. And by looking into that, we're definitely going to be looking more into Genesis 6 and the Nephilim and the sons of God, fallen angels, and all that stuff. So if that's a topic you want to dive into further, let me know down below in the comment section. And now that we're at the end of this video, let me know down below. Do you still think the way you thought? Who do you think the sons of God are? Let me know down below, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.